So how appropriate that on this Armistice Day that the person I'm talking to about the dismissal is both a soldier, a retired lieutenant colonel who served in the Vietnam War, and the author of this book on the dismissal, Villain or Victim, a defence of Sir John Kerr and the Reserve Powers. Here's Peter O'Brien, and he joins me now. Peter, thank you so much for your time. Anthony Albanese last night called Sir John Kerr a man the Liberals exploited by playing on his paranoia and love of the spotlight. Former Labor Minister Paul Keating even says Kerr should have been arrested. What's your response?
Well, my response to Keating's assertion is scorn, because Sir John Kerr did nothing wrong, nothing illegal, as even his most inveterate critic, Paul Kelly, has conceded. Paul Kelly says that the reserve power to withdraw the commission of a Prime Minister exists, and he also said that no Governor-General could have accepted Whitlam's advice for a half-Senate election on the 11th of November. So there was nothing illegal that Sir John Kerr did, and Mr Keating's assertion is just nonsense.
And of course the half-Senate election would have been unlikely to change the numbers in the Senate, and the new senators would not have taken their seats in any event until, I think, July, 6, 7, 8 months later. So, the crisis would have rolled on. So that was just a non-starter. Now, in your book, you go through a lot of these issues in wonderful detail. The hatred towards Sir John Kerr, led by Gough Whitlam, fed still 50 years later by Albanese and Paul Keating, how much did it affect him at the time?
Well, I believe that he could not have been unscarred, but it was the vitriol that and the invective that was heaped upon him that had the effect. There's now a narrative emerging, particularly in Troy Bramston's new book, that Sir John Kerr was tortured by his decision, and the impression that you're getting is that he really ultimately believed that he made the wrong decision. I've read his book, of course, Matters for Judgment, and nothing in that book suggests that he ever believed that he made the wrong decision, but that everything he did, he had a justification for, and he certainly suffered personally, as anybody would, to have the amount of vitriol thrown on you that he had, but it was not to do with the fact that he ever regretted the morality or the practicality or the legality of his decision.
I think a lot of the critics of what he did forget just how out of control that Whitlam government was. It was just astonishing. The shady deals, the sex scandals, the all sorts of things, plus, of course, massive inflation, 17+%. It was just a nightmare. But Peter, there's one last thing I want to ask you. As a former soldier, it might be a little, but let me do it anyway. I was struck today by the racial division, even at the Remembrance Day service in Canberra, which was attended by the Prime Minister. The division of Australians, and even soldiers now, by race. Here's a couple of examples just from today.
This Remembrance Day ceremony is being held in the nation's capital on the traditional lands of the Ngunnawal peoples. The Australian War Memorial acknowledges the traditional custodians of country across this great land. We recognise their continuing connection to land, sea and waters, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. Representing the National President of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Veterans and Services Association, Mr Garth O'Connell, and accompanying is today's didgeridoo player, able seaman Kieran Neves.
Peter O'Brien, can I just ask you, when you were fighting for Australia in war, when all Australians were fighting and dying, were they divided by race like that? And What do you think of the dead now being remembered in ceremonies that do divide us by race?
Andrea, I was actually struck by that little clip that you showed where they talked about the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander soldiers. I noticed that there wasn't one for the Vietnam Veterans Association or other Afghanistan Veterans Association, so that seemed to be a singularly inappropriate gesture. But I had Aboriginal soldiers fighting under my command, and we all just were the same. There was no distinction. We were just diggers getting on with the job, and they fought and they died, and in all the wars. And this division, and in particular, you've I don't want you to set me off, but the war memorial has been corrupted now with this Aboriginal frontier wars and so on, and that is an absolute scandal. And so yes, it doesn't sit very well with servicemen, in my view.